Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Pirkei Avos, the Ethics of the Fathers, live from Israel with Rabbi Chaim Coffman. And today we're continuing in chapter 2, Mishna 13, part 2. So let's just get right at it and see how the rabbi's doing today. Shalom, shalom, Rabbi Kaufman. So good to be with you again, sir. And we're going to put you live on the air and let you do what you do best. Teach us some ethics.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds like a plan. Great to be here as usual. We're still holding by chapter 2, Mishnah 13. This is part 2. It's going to be probably part 3, part 4, part 10, part 11. It's a long, what do you call it? It's a long Mishnah here. A lot to speak about. So the Mishnah says that we should go out and discern the proper way, right, to which a man should cling. Right, that the first thing is that Rabbi Eliezer says that what's the good thing the person should have is a good eye. So we spoke last week about this idea of proper way to cling and what we're supposed to do and what are about reaching potential, right? Which we always speak about, which is always good for the month of Elul. No question about that. So what do we have over here? We have another explanation that person has to think carefully and deeply, wanting to discern the proper way we should do something. Now, essentially, we should be doing that on a daily basis, right? Thinking about which way we need to go, what we need to do. Basically, as we would say, take a cheshbon nefesh. Cheshbon nefesh means a self-accounting. Right, so imagine how long we can spend on that. I've been, I give a class every Tuesday, or it's actually early Wednesday morning, for me on duties of the heart, and we're in the gate of, self-accounting. I think we've had, 60 classes maybe, right? If I remember correctly. So, and we're still working our way through. So it's all, there are 30 ways. The Avos says in duties of the heart in order to take a proper self-accounting. Right? So there's a lot, there's definitely a lot there, to understand what our obligation is. Sorry, that last week we did part 61. So actually, I think it's actually 6. I think I'm a week behind. I think it's actually 62 or 63. But regardless, there's quite a bit to speak about when we're talking about taking the self-accounting. Now, essentially, a person should take a self-accounting every day. What did I accomplish? What did I hope to accomplish? Did I accomplish what I was supposed to do? So basically, we should be thinking on a daily basis, what I'm supposed to do, proper way I'm supposed to do things. And if I don't know and I'm not sure, so then, as we said before in Pirkei Avos, we said, you have to make for yourself a rabbi. Now, making for yourself a rabbi doesn't necessarily mean the person themselves the rabbi, or let's say they even know a little bit less than the person, but they're asking them advice, right? They're asking them advice. Some say acquiring for yourself a rabbi means, certain things you might have to pay for, right? It doesn't just mean, well, it's going to help you for free and all that. Right? Acquiring means not just taking on what they say, but actually, potentially, paying for their advice. Now, some are going to say we're going to see this somewhere down the line, probably about 150, right? Sometime in the next millennium, and we spoke about that a few weeks back on Tanakh Talks, controversial issues about why it takes so long to convert, and actually, about paying for classes and whatever. So, we sort of spoke about that. But the question comes up, that the Torah should be for free, right? And, people say, well, Moshe Rabbeinu, we're not going to go through this topic, but basically people ask the question, they say, hey, Moshe Rabbeinu taught in the desert. He didn't charge money, right? Right? He didn't charge over here. So, yeah, because God made him rich through the tablets. He made him rich. Didn't have to. But in any case, the proper way, we need to think of what we need to do. We have to analyze, right? We have to make a decision. When we have to make a decision, we have to analyze it from a lot of different angles. We have to look at it in many different ways. Can't look at it systematically, right? And look at it and say, okay, I'm only going to look at it from one angle, or I'm going to look at it from another angle, right? You got to look at it multiple angles, because a lot of things are not clear cut. Not only are they not clear cut, what happens? We have to deal with Mr. S, right? The evil inclination, the angel of death, whatever you want to call him, right? The evil inclination does a job in all of us. So sometimes we think this is the right thing, this is the right move, and really, it's a disaster, right? But God lets us do things, lets us make decisions. Sometimes He'll stop them. Other times He won't, right? Other times, He says, okay, you made a decision. I didn't tell you to do this. You made a decision. So you got to live with it. Because one of the commentaries says in the book of Job that, people said to Job, look what happened over here. Some say it was his bad luck. They're trying to encourage him a little bit, or, said you must have done something wrong. Whatever the case is, point is, one of the commentaries there says that a person's going to have claim against God. Why, God, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do the other thing? What's God going to say? God's going to say, didn't you listen to Coffman's classes? Didn't he say that the 615th commandment, don't be a moron? Don't be stupid. I didn't tell you to do it. I didn't tell you to act in such a way. You chose to do it. Okay, so you're going to pay the price. 100% you're going to pay the price, right? God sometimes will stop us. Will not allow things to happen because it's not going to be good for us. In different ways. We never see it. We don't see the miracles either, right? In general, that God stopped us from, or stopped things from happening that could have caused us, tremendous damage in many different ways. We don't see it. We don't fathom it. Sometimes maybe it's a little more obvious, right? But a lot of times we don't see it. We don't fathom it. We don't sniff it, so to speak. We have no idea. We have no idea what's going on over here. So we have to try and analyze from many different angles, what we want to do, what we want to accomplish, et cetera. Or let's say if we have a question, we have to make a decision. And if we're still not sure, right, someone will say, well, I went to Rabbi Dr. Google, I didn't find an answer, right? So I'm coming to you. Great. So if you're still not sure, what do you have to do? You have to have proper rabbinic guidance. You can't do anything. You cannot do anything without proper guidance, right? Without proper rabbinic guidance. So, and you don't go wrong. We mentioned many times, person does not go wrong getting proper rabbinic guidance, even if the guidance is hard to do. Even if you're not going to come out smelling like a rose and people are going to dog you, people are going to make fun of you and all that, doesn't mean the guidance isn't good, right? It means we have to stand up for Torah. Right? It means we have to do what the Torah says, even if people are going to make fun of us, etc. Right? So when we make a decision, we have to analyze. And the problem is sometimes when we need to make a decision that we have our own biases. 100% we have our own biases. And when we have our own bias, we only look at it one way. We only look at it one way. So you need proper rabbinic guidance. Right? If you're not sure. If you're sure, and it's not, let's say, the evil inclination, it's not any of these things and decisions clear cut, okay? Right? But you gotta think once, twice, three times. Think about what the ramifications are, potential ramifications, so to speak. So another explanation over here is that you gotta discern which is the proper way. Which way I should go. Now, the Ramchal in Derech Hashem. The Ramchal in Path of the Just. Right? At the beginning, he says, what are we doing in this world? We're in this world to toil. We're in this world to struggle. Right? Regardless, we have an obligation to do what God does. To do what God says. There's a mitzvah in the Torah we're going to read, or we read in the mitzvah in the Torah, that you got to listen to what the rabbis say. You got to listen to the Kohanim in every generation. Those are the rabbis, right? You got to listen to what they say. You got to keep what they say. Do what the Torah says. Now, that being the case, not so easy. There are times, I've gotten this question a lot, there are times, you get up in the morning, you don't want to pray. Maybe you don't feel like praying. Maybe you don't feel like doing certain things. Right? So for a Jew, it's a lot worse. God says, I don't care, shut up and eat the matzah. You got to do what you need to do. So you got to get yourself psyched up. You got to, you got to wade through the murky waters, so to speak. And, you have to work hard. You have to work hard. So we have to fight the evil inclination on all sides. We have to get out of the matter. You're tired. You're not tired. You got to get up and do what you need to do. Now, no, I have to have it a little bit easier in that sense. Not necessarily fixed prayers, not so much ritual, etc. Because obviously there'd be over total prohibition of making up a new religion, right? So you got to be careful with that. Nonetheless, they got plenty what to do also, but it's easier. It's much more laid back, in that sense. For Jews, from the beginning, when you wake up in the morning till you go to sleep at night, you always got what to do. You always got what to do. You have to know how to think. You have to know how to guard your eyes. You have to, be careful what you hear. Many things on a daily basis. Some of these will apply to non-Jews. Some of them will apply to no-Hides. The problem is, a lot of them are probably what I would call moral imperatives. Right? In other words, they're not obligated. 100% they're not obligated. But even if they're not obligated, it's still a good thing to do. Right? Still 100%. It's still 100% a good thing to do. Right? So, so that's what it's going to be. We're going to do what we need to do. So, says the Mishna over here, I have to cling to God. Right? You have to know how to do things, when to do things, what's behind what you're doing, but you have to look at it from a lot of different angles. You can't just look at it from one angle and say, oh, that's the answer. Could be. Maybe that's true. My Rebbe ingrained in me many times. Think. Don't just answer. If the answer is black and white, okay. If the answer is not black and white, don't go with your first instinct. Think. Analyze. Right? Think about all the repercussions. And if you're not sure, you got to ask. Or you sit on it for a while. You don't always have to give an answer. It's better to say, I don't know, than to give a bad answer. So I wanted to ask my Rebbe a certain question, and he wasn't sure. And he said, yeah, I'm stringent like this, I'm stringent like that, and, I'm not really sure, so that's what I do. So I asked him, I don't recommend to do this because it's being a little bit obnoxious. I asked him a little bit, a few minutes later. Right? Okay, I said, so what's the answer? So he said, well, some say like this, some say like that, and, because there's a doubt over here, I'm stringent. Right? So what did Coffman do? Again, I don't recommend this. I asked him a third time. I said, so what's the answer? Is there a clear-cut answer here? Now, most people would have stopped after the first time, but since I had this, this very close, direct connection, so I asked him a third time. So he looked at me and said, I want to tell you what I heard in the name of the Brisker Rav. Rav Yisrael Zev Soloveitchik, a blessed memory, son of Rav Chaim Brisker. Right? One of the Brisker Rav, the Torah giant, one of the Torah giants of the last generation. No question about it. The Brisker Rav said, as we mentioned before, better to say I don't know than give a bad answer. And better to say I don't know, I'm not sure. So my Rebbe said to me, I want you to say my name. He said, I want you to say that Moshe Sternbuch says I don't know. He says, I don't know, not sure. So 3 minutes later, I looked over. He goes, I don't know, don't ask. I said, how'd you know I was going to say something? He said, I know you. So again, I don't necessarily recommend that, but the answer was, if we're not sure, say, I don't know. Better to say, I don't know, than give a bad answer. You say, I have to look it up, whatever, but if you're not sure, you're not sure. You don't want to give over something that's false. Because there's a disease in this generation. One of the diseases in this generation is to think I should have an answer at the tip of my tongue on everything. It's true. When a person learns, we have to be able to spit back answers like we know, like the back of our hand. That's true. Sometimes the answer is I'm not sure. Sometimes the answer is, it's a lot more complex. I have to look into it. Right? But again, it was ingrained in my head for a long time. Do not answer. Do not answer straight away. Think before you answer. So we got to think. But the problem is we live in this, this cream puff generation or this weak generation where everything's instantaneous. You can watch wars instantaneously, watch other things, right? So people say, but I want an answer now. Give me an answer now. I love the questions people throw at me, the hardest questions, to ask in the world, philosophically. And they're like, can you give me a soundbite? Can you answer this in like 35 seconds? No. Genesis and the Big Bang. Yeah, right. Genesis and the Big Bang. There was a Big Bang. There wasn't. How do you explain 6 days of creation? And that the fact that the world's, 5 billion years old or 50 billion years old or whatever the case is. But don't give me a long, drawn-out answer. Give me the short answer. Someone once asked me, I mentioned something about life after death, right? About the spiritual world and Olam Haba and all that, in the next world. So someone says, that's great. Can you answer that? Can you explain it to me, in 30 seconds? Now, obviously, I knew who the person was. If I would have started explaining, they would have stopped me straight away. They would have given me 5 seconds. So I said, I got a link. I'll send it to you. I said, you watch it, and you'll see. I said, I'm going to give a 30-second soundbite on an answer that could take years, right? Okay, so sometimes I'll get these questions that, I'm not saying they're bad questions. They're deep. They're deep questions. A lot of times, I'll deal with these questions in the Q&A because I'll answer the question in a short roundabout way. But I'll go into detail. Maybe in the Q&A or something else. For the sole reason that it deserves a proper answer. You can't give an answer in a chat. In a short chat over here. Point is, anyway, person makes a decision. We got to think. You can't just make a decision straight away. You got to think. It might be a lot more complicated. And let's say you analyze it from different perspectives. And maybe you think like this on one hand. You think like this on the other hand. You think like this in the middle. You got, 4 or 5 different ways, to analyze the question. What does that mean? You're not sure. So if you're not sure, what do? You get advice. Where do you go to advice from? You have to go to the rabbis for advice. You need proper rabbinic guidance, right, in order what to do. Right? That's what we do, certainly when we're not sure. Right? That's how you develop a connection with the rabbi as well. That's how, I sort of got in. My rabbi also asked him all kinds of things and, different, that's how I developed that connection. But, our whole lives, day in and day out, is what we should be doing. We should be analyzing what we do. Think about what we do. Think about what direction we want to go. Right? It's good for the month of Elul. Why? Because here we got 2 weeks. 2 weeks coming up from tomorrow. Tomorrow night, it's going to be Rosh Hashanah. Right? It's going to be Rosh Hashanah. The whole world gets judged. Non-Jews as well. They also get judged. So if it's all about judgment, I got this big court case. What am I doing to try and tip the scales? What am I doing to try and make sure I get a good judgment? Right over here. Got to work hard. We have to make a list. We have to think, what do I need to work on? Right? What do I need to do? And you have to make the list in a way that it's doable. Whatever it is you want to change. As I heard some great people say, cut that in half and then cut it in another half. Right? In other words, make something you want to change, make it that I can do it. Make it so easy I can do it. Otherwise, you're going to say, okay, I want to change this. It's too hard. You see, after Rosh Hashanah, after Yom Kippur, it's too hard to do. What does the person do? They give up. They say it's too hard. I can't do it. Right? Etc. So a person has to be consistent. Person has to work hard. Not so easy. Because isn't it true? If we work very hard in the month of Elul, we go through Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, isn't it true most people go back to being the same schnooks they were before? Bad habits. So what's going to change? What's going to change over here? So we're going to make real efforts. Even if the end, we don't live up to what we're supposed to do. But at least we're working hard towards that direction. That's what we got to do. We're going to make the effort. But a lot of people are going to give up before they start. A lot of people are going to say, yeah, I'm going to try and do this, try and do that. And they see, they probably bit off more than they can chew. It's probably a lot more difficult than they thought. And then the evil inclination, Mr. S, throws all kinds of things at us we didn't expect. Totally didn't expect. And then we have to backtrack. We have to rethink. We have to make, we have to intensify our efforts. But at the end of the day, what could happen? Person could fail. They could fail in a horrible way. And they say, well, if I didn't do what I set out to do, and this happened, that happened, and you failed, which we all fail to a certain extent. But if a person fails, what do you do? See, a person get knocked down, right? The prophets tell us, a person get knocked down 7 times, but they get up, right? Just person. But they get up. So if you're a bad boxer, you get knocked down 2, 3 times, it's over, right? But we say that if you get knocked down 7 times, he gets up, right? So we get knocked down a lot. There's a lot to be thankful for. God knows what he's doing. He pays the person back measure for measure, even if we don't always understand the measure for measure. Regardless what goes on, there's a lot of chesed. There's a lot of acts of loving kindness that God does. Problem is, how do we view it? And we speak about this a lot because I think people need to be strengthened in this point. And we look at the glass as half empty instead of being half full. Now, why is that? The reason is very simple. The reason is because we think that it's all bad. It's depressing, and life can be very depressing, right? Sure, Dan's got a lot of stories, night in and night out. Sees these derelicts and people high on meth and other things, and it's kind of depressing, right? Certainly kind of depressing. Now, not so easy to find a silver lining. Certainly in that, and maybe in some other things. But at the end of the day, we always say, isn't the alternative worse? You're going to say, how much worse could it be? Well, it could be better. You wouldn't have to listen to me, right? It could be better in that sense, right? But what's the reality? The reality is we have no idea what's going to be today. King Solomon says, we spoke about this way back, right? That we don't know what today's going to bring. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, right? So we can't say, well, I'll study tomorrow. I'll learn later. I'll do these good things later. Who says later's going to come? And who says you're going to want to do it later? But King Solomon says in Proverbs, you don't know what today's going to bring. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. If we don't know that, we have to live every day like it's our last. We don't know. Nobody knows, right? We say in the morning, Modani lifanecha. We thank God for giving our soul back. Well, guess what? If someone doesn't wake up, God doesn't give their soul back, you die. Right? Person dies in their sleep. Right? Certainly can happen. Right? No question. So we can't take anything for granted. The problem is we take everything for granted. When does a person realize how valuable health is? When they don't have it. All you need is one little thing. One little thing in the body. And the whole body hurts. The whole body aches. Person threw out their back. It's only, maybe one vertebrae, right? Or, maybe it's even something,
nerve,
something. Maybe it's something even more minor, right? But the problem is, makes your back hurt, makes your foot hurt. But when your foot hurts, your back hurts, your eye hurts, your arm hurts, whatever it is, the whole body suffers. The whole body suffers. So the Vilna Gaon, Elijah Vilna, more than 250 years ago, his students were suffering tremendously from poverty. So on Fridays, he would send them to the local hospitals to see people in the hospital. And they saw people who couldn't eat by themselves. They couldn't get out of bed. They were racked in pain, right? Different things. Now, why did he do that? Because he understood that, their situation is bad. Their situation is difficult. But look at these other people. Their situation is worse. They can't get out of bed. They can't feed themselves. Can't take care of their needs. Right? So they came into Shabbos totally different. They didn't have much food. They certainly didn't have any luxuries, right? So they came into Shabbos much different because they realized what they have. They may not have very much, but what do they have? They have health, right? They have their health. They can take care of themselves. So that's a huge thing. Definitely not a small thing over here. But what's the problem? We complain day in and day out. This is hard. That's hard. This is bad. Our kids, spouse, whatever. We complain about a lot of things. A lot of things. And the reality is we have a tremendous amount to be thankful for. So I always say, and I think it's good advice. A person should write down 10 things. You don't have to write down more than 10. Write down 10 things, on a piece of paper that you're thankful for. Person might say health. Person might say, my lot in life, what's going on. Maybe say livelihood, maybe whatever. A lot of things we have to be thankful for. Now, when a person is down and out or almost out and they're angry and they're just being tossed around in this world like a ragdoll, so to speak. What do? Look at the list. And before you rip it up and you destroy it, think about the goodness that we have. There's a lot of goodness. Right? You want to see some goodness? Someone should go visit India. Go to India. You see kids living on the streets. You see people starving. And you can do that in New York also. See people living on the street. Right? There I think it's much more. But regardless, at least I don't have that. You can say, but I don't own my own house. Doesn't matter. You're not living on the street. You have food. You're not starving. Right? That's a huge thing. You have your basic needs. Yeah, but I could use this more. I could use that more. Okay, but your needs really are being taken care of. We're living in the lap of luxury today. The lap of luxury. Imagine before World War II, what was going on? There was poverty. Tremendous poverty in Europe. People suffered tremendously. Not to mention anti-Semitism, other things. Right? But even by food, there's such an abundance. So much gets wasted also. Such an abundance. Kosher food, 60, 70,000 products. The Union of Orthodox Rabbis, the OU, certifies. Cookies, cakes, all kinds of things. Canned stuff. We're living in the lap of luxury. Imagine a person goes to his store and is like, hey, how come you don't have my favorite, you don't have my favorite candies over here? What happened to my cookies? People go nuts sometimes. Say, oh, you don't, what do you mean you don't have it? Okay, I gotta understand. People have desires for certain things. Fine. Reality is we're living in the lap of luxury. Tremendous lap of luxury over here. But how are we looking at the glass? Are we looking at it half full or half empty? Now, are there things that we can look at the glass and say, wow, we really have it hard. You fill in the blank, whatever it is. This is hard. That's hard. The other thing's hard. Okay? It could very well be true. People have lots of trials. Lots of trials we go through. That is no question. Right? So what's the purpose of trials? Why do we go through them? We go through them because God wants us, to see how we're going to act. Wealth is a trial. Are you going to help others? Are you going to give to others? A person can say, why should I help him? Let him get a better job. I worked hard. Look what happened to me. So let him work hard. Why should I help them with this, that, and the other thing? Poverty also. Right? The other side. It's also a struggle. Is the person thankful for the little that they have? It's also a struggle. Right? Someone says, I would rather have the struggle of being rich. Okay. Right? But I saw it brought down somewhere, I don't remember the source, that says that 1 in 1,000, take a question in a second, 1 in 1,000 rich people make it to paradise, make it to Gan Eden. 1 in 1,000. Why 1 in 1,000? Because God gave them this abundance, and He gave them a tremendous amount, and guess what? They didn't help others. The whole purpose of having the money is to help others, right? And to help the right people. help the right people. So I had a cousin, very wealthy person, even many, many years ago. And someone had told me that before she passed away, someone had told me she helped raise $100 million, not her own money, $100 million that helped raise money for a non-Jewish charity.
Wow.
Now, I'm not going to say this charity is necessarily a bad charity, not idolatry, other things, but imagine she'll get some credit for helping raise that money, right? Let's say she'll get some credit for charity. But, as a person being eulogized, what a great benefactor, this, that. Imagine now this soul knows exactly what the truth is. And they realize, wow, there are a lot of Jewish orphans. There are a lot of Jewish schools that need help, right? The list goes on. Every day I hear stories. Every day I hear stories. Someone's got a lot of kids marrying off a child, they have no money, right? Or, sickness, one of the parents died, a lot of little kids, no money, whatever, like tragic stories. So, I think Turnus Rufus asked Rabbi Kiva. He said, if your God is so powerful, why do you make poor people? Right? Can't he give them money to take care of their needs? So Rabbi Kiva said, of course he could. But what's the purpose of having poor people in the world? So rich people can help them. So people of means can help them. And they can have a portion of the world to come. Right? So imagine this person now, get back to this cousin of mine, right? Imagine this person sees absolute truth. And by seeing absolute truth, she realized what she could have done with this money. It's too late. It's too late. Now, I would say, let's say she got a C minus or a D plus and and help raising this money to this charity. Right? That's going to be used against her, though. She might get credit for it. Might get a little bit of credit for it. But imagine $100 million where that could have gone. Now, someone say, that's not your choice. You can't judge that. Oh, I can judge it. I 100% can judge it, right? And say, what a nitwit! That someone could have given that money to Jewish causes, and they didn't, so why did God give it to them? What's my simple explanation? Because God gave them their olam haba now. He gave them their portion of the world to come now. Made it easy for them, made a ton of money. They had butlers when I was a kid. That's how rich they were. That's how much money they had. Right? So it could be, why'd they have it so easy? I'm not saying the person didn't work hard for it, but why did God make it so easy? Because he had to reward them in this world. For whatever mitzvah that they did in this world, they ate granny across the street, I don't know, whatever it was, made them unbelievably wealthy. But that's not going to be good for them. Because if they didn't use it for the right thing, it's going to be held against them. In the world to come, they got nothing. So a person can be jealous of people that, a lot of money, this, that, looks like they have success, nothing bad happens to them, and they spit in God's face. And they spit in God's face on a regular basis. You're going to say, you see righteous people struggle, and they have it hard, right? And they have it very difficult. You say, why is that fair? Why is that fair? You say, it's not fair. People are going to complain and say, God, why are you doing this? So what's the answer? One answer? Because he's knocking them out in the next world. That's what he's doing. He's 100% going to knock them out. Right? Because he has to reward them for whatever mitzvah they did. Right? So imagine, this person has 1,000 people at the funeral. They're finished. I'm not playing God here. I'm not going to put on my fancy glasses and my funny mustache. Right? I'm not God over here. But maybe that's the case. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. God gave them their reward in this world for whatever mitzvahs they've done. Because that's only fair. But if they spit in God's face on a regular basis, and they don't care anyway, so why to give them all this money to knock him out? Because they don't need to pray to him. They don't need anything from him. They have everything. The family's still pretty wealthy. Right? Still pretty wealthy. So why do you give it to them? Could be, again, I'm not saying it's the reason. Just pointing out it could be. Why? Because God had to reward them. He had to reward them in this world for whatever mitzvah they've done. So if that's the case, what did God do? He said he gave them everything. And when they died, that's it. They don't get anything. They lose everything in one shot. Yeah, you had a question, comment before?
Yeah, Rabbi, you were talking about us going through struggles, um, and how Hashem, brings them as opportunities. My question is, what about people that deliberately are testy towards other people? I mean, to the point where they're actually throwing a stumbling block in front of people to see if they're going to overcome it. I mean, like I can get that Hashem is in control of everything, but nothing drives me crazier when people deliberately get testy with myself. Deliberately, they literally are throwing things in
What do you
your
mean?
way to try to, see how you'll respond.
Listen, that's also a test. God is using those people to get to you, right? I'll give you
Yeah,
an
but isn't
example.
it a wicked practice?
Why is it a wicked practice? God, God's saying, I want you to work on your anger. I had somebody, I was in the store. I was in the store one Thursday shopping, and it was whatever. The arrows of, the aisles are very narrow, very narrow. So, you have to get by people. You have to say, excuse me, this, that. Someone came in, whatever, came in, wasn't paying attention, just sort of like barreled in front of me in his shopping cart, or if we're English, his trolley hit me. Right now, I wasn't in the greatest mood at the time. So I was like, no. I was like, what are you doing? He didn't apologize. Totally didn't apologize. Mine was somewhere else, I'm sure. And he was like, why? What happened? I said, you just went 50 kilometers an hour and your shopping cart hit me. Now, is that person liable over here, right? That person is reckless. He's reckless, right? Now, shouldn't the person say, oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention. He just went on, going on his own business. Why are you so upset? Like, why are you getting upset? Now, the reality is, it was a golden opportunity for me to work on anger. Now, you're going to say, why would God do that? Why would God put someone like this in your path? Why would he do that? All right. So the question is, right? No one says they have permission to do it. If a person's reckless, right? If a person's reckless, I have a right. Um, I have a right to turn them in to the police. Now, if a person turns someone into the police or whatever, and and they're not allowed to, they lose their portion of the world to come. If somebody is reckless, right? I don't really have to ask a question over here. If they're reckless, I can turn them in, right? If they're doing things that pretty much egregious. But if somebody does something wrong, if somebody does something wrong, um, then yeah, they're going to be liable. 100% they're going to be liable. The only question over here is okay, why is it happening to you? Why is this person now coming to you? And they're banging into you. So you're going to say, why does this person do this? Or, why are they reckless? It doesn't matter, right? The question really doesn't matter why they're reckless or not. They're doing things, the wrong way. They are going to be liable. There's no question about it. The question is, okay, now that they've done it, how am I supposed to react? Right? Is that your question? Nobody's permitted to do that. If they do that, 100% they're liable. They are 100% liable. Yeah, yeah, I see
Da-
it. If you
David
damage
asks,
the
yeah,
person due to negligence, yeah,
will they?
negligence, you're liable. You should have been more careful. The question is, how much damage did the person do? Right? Measure for measure. Again, any punishment that God is going to enact on a person is going to be measure for measure. Now, a person has to be careful what they do. Negligence, I'll give an example. A person wasn't paying attention, a Jew, not paying attention on Shabbos. They're standing up against the wall, don't realize there's a light switch. They knock the light switch on or off. Let's say. They did it by accident. Now, what are they liable for? They have to bring a sacrifice. Now, imagine if this is in the time of the temple over here. So, they have to take an animal. They have to bring it to the temple. It could take a week, 2 weeks to get there. It'll take a lot of time. They can't farm. They can't do other things, right? They have to bring the sacrifice. It's taking time and money. But you're going to tell me they weren't paying attention. Okay, so what do I care they weren't paying attention? So one of the things people will say, on this topic, is if a person desecrated Shabbos by accident, a Jew or a JIT, right? It doesn't matter, right? If someone by accident desecrate Shabbos, what would someone say to them? You got to be more careful. B, you should learn the laws more in depth. The laws of Shabbos. Keep reviewing the laws of Shabbos. Why? Because you were negligent in something you shouldn't have been negligent. Now, if a person damaged somebody, that's by Shabbos, right? But if somebody damaged someone, even by accident, even that they weren't paying attention, so we do hold 100%. There's measure for measure, no matter what a person does, no matter what. If they do it on purpose, it's even worse, right? So there will be measure for measure. 100% there'll be measure for measure. How it works itself out, I can't answer, but that'll be the case. Because it doesn't matter why you did it. Totally doesn't matter. What the reason was. If a person, totally forgives you and says, don't, and the person feels bad, they say, don't worry about it, whatever, even if you damage them, okay. So that can get wiped away. But in Dan's case, you got people, I've come across these people also, all they want to do is pick a fight. All they want to do is make fun of you, right? So you got to be careful who you speak to. But let's say you're not in control of that. You're not in control. There are people that are testy to be testy. That's what they do. Now, if we know that, we stay away from people like that. If we don't have a choice, we have a choice how we... You're right, but again, there are plenty of rude people out there. They could be Orthodox Jews or not, and they don't get the message. They don't internalize the message. If there are people holding nowhere in the world, and they're just rude because that's who they are, and there are people like that. Unfortunately, there are probably plenty of people out there, big egos. Let's say they have money, they have power. They don't care. They don't care what they say. They look down upon other people, if they don't have their own stature and this and that. Okay, so what? So there are people that are rude. There are people that are rude that say rude things. And let's say they say rude things to us. Now the question is, how do we react? Do we just shove it back in their face? Two wrongs don't make a right. Or do we say, maybe give them a snappy answer, right? And that'll put them in their place, so to speak. Or maybe not, it's going to, potentially make things worse. So it doesn't mean, a person has to be, just as say, well, I just have to take it and that's the way it is. A person does not have to be a dish rag. 100%. They have a right to defend themselves. You got to be careful saying things back. That you have to be careful of. Because it just gets out of control. This totally gets out of control. You ever see that, people drive like maniacs, They cut you off, and then the person levels the horn, right? They get so mad they level the horn. So what does the person do? They stop, or they go much slower so you can't pass them. They do things that are obnoxious. They don't care. Like they own the road. My way or the highway, no pun intended. So people like that, okay, God will take care of them. God will knock them down at some point, right? But your question is, they come in my path. I didn't ask for that. You're right. You're right. So now the question is, how do we deal with it? How is it dealt with? Right? That's the question. And we have to be careful no matter what we do. So even if a person, the answer to the question is, even if a person did something by accident, doesn't matter. Doesn't mean you're not liable here. Listen, if the person you damaged forgives you, could erase a lot of heartache. That could happen. Could totally erase a lot of heartache. At the same time, you're right. We have to be careful what we do. We have to be careful what we think. We can't be negligent. And also, there are different levels of being negligent. If a person's negligent in a way that it looks like you did it on purpose, in other words, it looks like it's not just, you stood up, it was on Shabbos and you stood against the wall and you weren't paying attention, the switch went on, right? If a person did something that is much more direct, even though they did it by accident, but it's much more direct, you can't say it's by accident anymore. That means by accident, it's almost like I did it on purpose. Or not me, it's like they did it on purpose. That's worse, right? If a person wasn't paying attention, they flicked the light on by accident, it's one thing. But if a person did something in a way, they did something in a way where, it wasn't just they weren't thinking or whatever, but it looked, it almost looks like, they did it on purpose. And that was their intention. So that negligence is on a higher level now. The punishment would be more severe because you can't say, well, I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't paying attention. No, that's not the question. You're right. You might not have been paying attention, but you did it in such a way that it looked like it was on purpose. It looked very close to being on purpose. So that you're going to be liable for a greater thing. For a greater punishment, you'll be liable. 100%. Right? But even if a person did it by negligence, I can hear my Rebbe screaming now. I can hear him screaming his lungs out saying, did it by accident? What's the matter? What's the matter? Shabbos wasn't that important to you? This wasn't that important to you? You did it by negligence? So what's the easy answer? The easy answer is my head was somewhere else. I wasn't thinking. I should have been thinking, whatever. That's the answer. Right? But what's the answer that's going to be thrown down our throats? What's the answer going to be? The answer is going to be, what? The world's not important enough for you? Serving God properly is not important for you? You take things for granted? You don't pay attention? How can you not pay attention in this world? You're walking down the street, you're banging into someone because you were in a rush. You say, yeah, I did it by accident, I was rushing, this, that, okay. So who says you're allowed to? I've seen it a number of times. My travels up north, the long line, and people act like animals trying to get on the bus, let's say. Right? So it's interesting to watch. It's interesting to watch. It might make you sick also when you watch it, but it's interesting to watch. Right? In other words, person, going to say, well, I want to get on the bus. I have a right to get on the bus. Okay, but who says you have the right to push me out of the way to get on the bus? Why is your life more important than mine? I'm also rushing to get somewhere, right? Right? But what's the bottom line? Bottom line, the Mishna and Sanhedrin. The Mishna and Sanhedrin says, Bishvili nivra olam. The world's created for me, i.e. for me, not for you. So I have a right, I have more of a right to get on the bus because I'm my own world, true? You are your own world, right? 100% you're in your own world. You are your own world, true? Very true. But who says you're allowed to do what you did? Right? Who says that? Right? Who says that? Now here a person says they apologized. If they accepted the apology, with a full heart, you don't have that much to worry about. Right? If they accepted it with a full heart. If not, yeah, there could be payback somewhere down the line. Could be. Right? Could be. But if they accepted, if they accepted, what do you call it? If they accepted apology, they don't really have that much to worry about. If they didn't accept the apology, then, you do what you can to try and apologize. Maybe try and apologize a second time. If they don't accept it, you don't have to go further. You did what you could do. They didn't accept your apology. Okay. If they don't accept your apology, it's not your problem anymore. Right? When it comes to Yom Kippur and a person sinned between man and man, we say 3 times you have to accept, if you, cause someone pain or whatever the case was, you ask them for forgiveness. And after the first time they say no, you ask them a second time. After the second time they say no, you bring a whole bunch of people with you. Maybe it's going to soften the person up. If after the third time they come and they say, I don't accept your apology, get out of here, etc., you don't have to sin anymore. It's not your sin anymore. They get the sin. So we always say, if someone did something against us, we should be very quick to accept their apology. Because if not, you're considered cruel. Now, what's the $1.5 million question? Someone caused me a lot of damage. How can I do that? Very hard to do such a thing. And accept with a full heart. Very true. Right? I'm not going to say it's easy. But I would say like this. If we accept somebody's apology, that even if they did something egregious with a full heart, doesn't mean you have to be best friends with them afterwards. With a full heart, God is going to overlook what we've done against him. That's how far it goes, measure for measure. We overlook what someone did tremendously bad against us. What's God going to do? He's going to look the other way also. 100% he's going to look the other way. What's someone going to say? What is somebody going to ask? What are they going to ask? They're going to say, come on, who can do that? Who's got the intestinal fortitude to do it? Good question. Not an easy thing to do. But if we would look beyond what people have done, doesn't mean you have to be a masochist. Doesn't mean just, hey, give me more. No, you don't have to be a dish rag over here. At the same time, if we're able to overlook what someone did and realize God's the one in charge and he's getting to me in different ways, how am I going to react? Then the reality is that could change the world. That could bring the Messiah that much closer. Why? Because we realize, okay, God's the one in control. These things happen even if it's against my will. Right? There was a story. I'll give an example. There was a story with Rabbi Chaim Coffman, to bless the memory. He was the head of the Mir Yeshiva here in Jerusalem many years ago. And they were in a bunker. They were in not a bunker, like a sealed room. When Jerusalem was getting bombarded, right, during the 6-Day War. And I think it was during the 6-Day War. And there was a woman. There was a woman there. And this woman gets up. This woman gets up and says, and what does she say? She gets up and she says, she was an aguna. An aguna means that her husband refused to give her a bill of divorce. To give her a get, as we understand. So whatever, the whole thing I don't want to get into now. About why the guy has to give it, why can't a woman do it, the prenuptial agreements, and whatever. Point is, she was in a lot of pain, suffering tremendously. Suffering tremendously. Now, what'd she say? She got up and said, God, I forgive you. I forgive him. I forgive him for all the pain he's put me through. That's what she said. So Rabbi Chaim Coffman on that said, when I heard that, I said, there's no doubt nothing bad's going to happen to us. Through that declaration, we're all going to be saved. Why? Because she went well beyond what she needed to do. This person causing her all kinds of pain. I'm not saying she had someone that she wanted to remarry. Maybe, she wanted to have the ability to remarry. And he's not giving her the ability to remarry out of spite, out of vengeance, totally forbidden. Regardless, she says, I'm willing to forgive him. I'm willing to forgive what he's done. So, Rabbi Chaim Coffman said, God looks at something like that like you can't imagine. That can split the heavens wide open. Now, that's not an easy thing to do. Totally not an easy thing to do. That, you're going to say, what, does someone have to do that? We'll get the level of emunah. We'll get that level of belief and faith in God at this point. Look where she's holding. Is that an easy thing to do? No. Now, for most of us, we'd be in that situation. Or, in other situations. We're not going to accept what they say. Meaning, we're not going to do that. Why? Because we're upset. Because we're hurt. We've gone through pain. We've gone through pain. Now, it's not an easy thing to get over. Well, with therapy, without therapy, it doesn't matter. Right? Certain things, very hard to get over. But that being the case, imagine we spit in God's face on a daily basis. We do things wrong. We think wrong thoughts, all kinds of things. God should have mercy on all of us. But imagine if we look the other way. What other people have done to other people have done to us, God is going to look the other way of what we've done against him. Measure for measure. Now, that means he's going to wipe it out altogether. I don't know how far that goes. But the point is, imagine what God would do in that case. And God's going to look at the angels and say, you think my creation's nothing? You think it wasn't worthwhile, for me to create man? Look over here. Let me show you over here. Let me show you what man has the potential to reach. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be hard for people to do this. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question at all. But imagine what it could do. Now, does that mean I have to sit there and take it? No. I have to be at this rag and just listen to what people say and terrible things and all that? No. Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that at all. Right? But if I had a proper attitude, and I understood the bigger picture, and I understand that God runs the world. I understand he puts things in my way, whether I do it myself or not, in order for me to grow, in order for me to reach potential. So if that is true, then I have to ask, okay, why is he doing this? What is the purpose of this? Right? Why do I have to go through this? Right? Why do I have to go through this? Right? Why do I have to go through this? And the answer is, well, where's the person's emunah? Over here. You did X, whatever it was. You did X, whatever it was. You know it was the wrong thing to do. Or let's say better. They did it to you. If they did it to you, now what are you thinking? You're thinking every four-letter word you can think of. You're in pain. Right? You want to hit him in the face, use your Louisville slugger, whatever it is. Right? That's what you want to do. But God says you're not allowed to. Right? Now, does that mean I have to take it? Does that mean you can't press charges? Doesn't mean that. Someone asked me this recently. For no reason at all, a person got pepper sprayed. Whatever, the whole thing. But, so they asked me, am I allowed to take this person to court? I said 100%. 100%. Someone's not allowed to do that in general. Right? So I said, you're not allowed, you should get, days of work you missed. You should get paid for that. You should get compensated for that. Are you allowed to sue them for, a lot of money? You get a lot of money. I don't know. You get what you deserve. Get what you deserve back. But no, the question was, could they go after them? I said 100%. 100%, two non-Jews, not a problem going to non-Jewish court. Right? Now, we can ask a bigger question. The bigger question is, yeah, that person's going to get punished. The other person will be compensated, right, for what they missed or whatever. They should get compensated, right? But what's the bigger question? The bigger question is, what did you do to deserve to get pepper sprayed? You're going to say I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe. Maybe that's the case. What's the message? What's the message? I'll tell you what the message is. Or possibly the message is. If a person's sick, they damage their hand, they damage their arm, they damage their foot, back, head, whatever it is. Normally we would say, if a person, has these ailments, again, it's not done by somebody else, per se. They did it themselves, right? They did it themselves. So or it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter, right? Because we're going to use this as an example. It means they did something wrong with their hands, or something with their foot. So here, I didn't even mention this, because it didn't come up. It was just more of a legal issue, what to do, a halachic issue, what to do, right? But the bigger scheme of things, person got pepper sprayed. They got pepper spray in their eyes. Now, there are a million things going on in the eyes. I don't have to go and tell about all the miracles. The person has the ability to see, right? Anyone that has ever had, God forbid, had detached retina or something like that, you don't see as well, right? There are a million things going on. Little thing, goes wrong, throws the whole thing off. Could throw a person's balance off, other things. But if someone has an issue with eyes and being able to see, could be very well that why your eyes getting punished because you saw things you shouldn't have seen. Measure for measure. In other words, your hand hurts. You did something to your hand. You broke a finger. This, that. So you must have used it in the wrong way. Now you might not figure out what you did. Some things might be more obvious. Some things less. Could be something happened 10 years ago. Now you're getting paid back now. Doesn't matter. The fact is that part of the body was used for something that was bad. So now you're going to get punished. Now there's payback. Right? So a person gets punished, in their eyes and eyesight because of things they saw that they shouldn't have seen. That's measure for measure. Now, if a person realizes that, they have no questions. The only question is why it happened now. Right? If a person saw things they shouldn't have seen. Right? And now they have a problem with their eyes. Or over time. Let's say better. Over time. No, they don't have, degenerative eye disease, whatever it is. The eye weakens and whatever. They don't have that disease. But something that happens. I read a story earlier, not today, but someone who was blind. Blind, deaf. An amazing story. How they're involved in finance now. Different things. And as a kid, they got, glass in their eye, and then they fell and, basically lost sight in both eyes. And that's pretty much what happened. He was a kid, right? So could be as a kid, there's no punishment there because they're not liable, right? That's why if a person, a child's born mentally challenged, it's not the child's fault, right? Because no punishment here. When's punishment come? Punishment comes at the age of 12, 13, or 20 for a person's actions. Certainly not as a child. So maybe it's a bad example. It happened when he was a child. So if it happened when he was a child, it has to do with their soul, what their soul has to go through. Punishment that, maybe the soul in a previous life, saw things that shouldn't have seen, and now it gets punished now. Gets punished in this world. Well, let's say better. Or let's say a little bit different. Let's say it happened to a person when they're older, when they're liable for punishment. I'm not saying they have to be blind over here, per se. But something can happen with a person dies because of what they saw. Measure for measure. Now, if it's something you did deliberately, You did deliberately. That I can hear clear. Measure for measure. If a person saw something they didn't have intention to see, whatever, but then their mind wandered. Right? Summertime, you see how people dress or don't dress. And a person looks and then they think all kinds of things. That's forbidden. 100% that's forbidden. Now you're going to say, I didn't tell this person to dress that way and walk in front of me. You're right. Question is, how we deal with it. If a person says, I can't believe I saw that, whatever, you try and get these thoughts out of your mind, it's one thing. If a person started thinking about it and whatever, that's another thing. That's something totally different. So you're going to say, but I wasn't in charge of that. You're in charge of how you react. That's what you're in charge of. All the more so if you looked at things you shouldn't have looked at in the first place. That's all. That's doing things on purpose, not by accident. Right? So don't you think somewhere down the line is going to be payback? Does that mean the person's going to be blind? No. Doesn't necessarily mean that. But there'll be payback. There'll be measure for measure. Right? So we got to be careful over here. So you're 100% right.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I guess my question is, when human beings deliberately, intentionally inflict that measure for measure, are they not liable for causing the harm that they cause? Of course they are.
Yeah. So what's the question?
Well, are they not? Yeah, are they not liable? I mean, if people are deliberately, being testy and inflicting duress, I
So,
mean,
so again, they are going to be liable for what they've done. And now the question is, how did you react? See, a lot of people want to say, I didn't deserve that. This person, who came 50 kilometers an hour, hit me with their trolley, with their shopping cart, whatever you want to call it, right? They don't think they did anything wrong. They're like, what are you getting so upset about? Grow up. So I hit you, big deal. What's the big deal? I'm not in a rush. I don't have things to do. I don't have places to be. Maybe I should have judged him favorably. Maybe his wife's about to give birth. Maybe, this happened or, whatever. But the point is, we have knee-jerk reactions. We react, we don't think. What about the bigger picture over here? This person we know is obnoxious. You're right. You stay away from such a person. But let's say you can't. And they make all kinds of comments. Now, you're not in control over here. Good. What am I in control over, though? There is something I'm in control over. What I'm in control over is how I react. That's what I'm in control over. I have to see the bigger picture and say, well, God is putting this person in my way. Right? He's putting in my line of traffic, so to speak. Why? Can't answer. I got a lot of questions about, people who've been put in my line. But okay, I'm not going to get answers. Doesn't matter. Question is, this is the hand we've been dealt with. Whether we've chosen it, whether it's something we've done, yeah. Whether it's something we've done or not, but we have to think at all times, okay, what happened over here? That's why we have to analyze. What happened over here? What's the bigger picture? Now, obviously, if somebody got pepper sprayed, so to speak, yeah, you're gonna go after this person, right? You're gonna get them for damages, 100%. You have every right to, right? And that's probably 99% of what the person's thinking. 99%. The 1% they're not thinking is probably the most crucial, and that is, okay, why did it happen to me? What am I supposed to learn from this? Don't confront someone or don't do anything to someone if you know someone's got pepper spray. Maybe. But see, we don't believe things happen for no reason. Right? So what are we saying over here? So we're saying that a person has to see the bigger picture. Seeing the bigger picture, is not an easy thing to do. Because that means you have to take responsibility. That means God's sending you a message. What's the message? Don't get involved with people that pepper spray. Okay. But what's the message? What's the bigger message? After you calm down, after the whole thing happened, what's the bigger message? The bigger message is God sending me a message here. The message is I must have done something with my eyes that I got punished over here. Now, it could be this happened, 5 years ago. Could have happened 2 weeks ago. Could have happened a month. We don't know. We don't know exactly when, where, what, or how. Right? But if we do believe that there's measure for measure, that God punishes measure for measure, then in the bigger scheme of things, that person's getting punished, even though if they're going to get compensated, doesn't matter. They're feeling the pain of what their eyes saw they shouldn't have seen. That's the bigger picture. 100% that's the bigger picture. But I would say like this, how many people are thinking like that? The Chol of Avos says, someone causes you damage, go up and kiss them and hug them. Imagine, you're driving down the street. Use this example all the time. You're driving down the street, the corner of your eye, there's a stop sign. There's a stop sign. In the corner of your eye, you see a person with their head in a phone. Basically texting, not paying attention, bam. Before you have a chance to react, they hit your car. Now, let's say nobody gets damaged, right? Everyone's okay. Car might have got damaged. What's the first thing you do? You get out of the car. You start screaming at the other person. That's the first thing you do. Exactly. You drag them out of the car and you beat them to an inch of their life. That's what you do, unless they're bigger than you. Right? That's what you would do. Now, comes on the Chovos of Avos and says, no. Not only are you not supposed to do that, not only are you not allowed to do that, you have to go over to them, you should give them a hug and a kiss and thank them for helping you work on your anger. Now you're going to say, Rabbi, nobody's holding that way in the world. Nobody. Maybe. I didn't take a survey, but probably not. Probably very few. Right? This is what the Chovos of Avos says. It's an opportunity to work on anger. You should thank him for giving you that opportunity. You see, we react before we think. We say things before we have the opportunity to retract it. Usually, the Gemara says you say something, what should happen over here? Right? What should happen? That your tongue, your teeth should stop you from saying it. It should give you a little bit of control. Stop you from saying it. But sometimes we say things anyway. So it's what I'm going to call a knee-jerk reaction. God does not want a knee-jerk reaction. He wants you to be in control at all times. You're going to say, for a human being, that's almost impossible. I'm not saying what's possible or not. I'm saying this is what God wants. He wants us to think. He wants us to analyze. He wants us to act in the way that we should at all times. Now, there are times that, life can be kind of crazy. And we're caught off guard and all kinds of things. True? 100% true. That does not negate the fact that I have to do God's will. That does not negate the fact that I have to see the bigger picture. So even if a person's around someone that's testing, you know that they're testing, right? And you don't do anything to start up with them, they start up with you. Right? So now the only question is, okay, I don't have a choice. I have to deal with this person. How am I supposed to react? Well, isn't God working on your patience? Oh, yeah. Isn't God working on the fact that you shouldn't, He's going to work on your anger? 100%. 100%. Does that mean you're allowed to get angry whenever you want? No. Does that mean you can tell them off, make fun of them, call them names? No. You have a right to defend yourself. I'm not saying not. But a lot of these times, we'll say, it's kind of like talking to a missionary. Because every time you answer a missionary, they go on to something else. Like talking to a brick. This person is not going to change. They're not going to say, they're going to have an aha moment. They're going to say, that's the answer. I'm not going to be tested anymore. No. They've been this way for a long time. Usually it doesn't happen overnight. That's part of their personality, been that way for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, whatever it is. That's who they are. Right? So the only question is how I deal with them. right? But if they're put in your path, let's say better, if they're put in your path, so they're put in your path for a reason. What's the reason? What's a possible reason? Possible reason is because God wants me to work on certain things, even if it's hard. Even if it's hard. You take someone, let's say, one of my personal pet peeves, and that is personal hygiene, as most people know. So someone's going to sneeze and cough and this and that. Okay, you got tissues, you got a hanky, very good. But if not, you're just hacking away. Why do I need to get sick over here? Why do I need to be a part of that? I don't. Right? Now, somebody like that, you're going to get annoyed at. Somebody, persons in synagogue happens a lot. Or it could happen a lot. Whatever it is. It says Avos-The Miller, a blessed memory, I have to look for ways to love this person. Let's say it's a guy in synagogue talks all the time. In between prayers, this, that. How can I love them? They're a nudnik. They do all these things. They're annoying. You came to pray. What are they doing? See what they're doing. It says Avos-The Miller, you got to think of ways to love them. How am I supposed to love them over there? Annoying. So he says, think about the fact they come to synagogue. Think about the fact that they're 3 times a day. Think positive things about them. You come to love them. You're right. These other things may bother you. They'll bother you less. So I've tried to enact that in certain ways. It's not so easy. I'm not going to say it's so easy, right? But if you look at the positive, or try to look at the positive, then you're not going to have these negative thoughts. And negative thoughts are bad. It's a waste of time. Total waste of time. It's very taxing on the mind as well. Right? So, again, people do things that are egregious to say that, say I love them. Who says? Right? King David himself says in Psalms, right, in the book of Psalms, says, I love those that love you. I hate those, I'll fight against those that hate you. Right? So if this person's doing enough good things, God loves them, so I have to love them. I have to love them. So you're going to say, come on, it's not so easy. Not so easy to do. You're right. I'm not going to say it is. But Avos-The Miller said, if you think, a little bit about certain people that may be a little bit testy and give you a hard time, think about good qualities. You're going to say, what if they have no good qualities? That could be. Imagine being in a funeral. They want you to give a eulogy, and nobody has anything good to say. Nobody has anything good to say about the person that died. No such a case. Nobody had anything good to say in the family. All right? They can't lie. You can't give a eulogy and lie. That's bad. All right? That's certainly forbidden. All right? But what are you going to say over here? Some people, or most people, should have some redeeming qualities. Not everyone is so evil incarnate that they're bad. And we look at the bad. It's very easy to look at the bad. Right? Because if I look at the bad, it makes me look better. Right? Now, they may have bad qualities. 100%. 100%. I don't want to learn from their bad qualities. 100%. Right? But again, we have an obligation. Jews have an obligation. Right? Let's say better. That as long as someone is going in the right direction, and we see them in a compromising position, whatever it is, we have an obligation to judge them favorably. Now, if they continually do things wrong, and they would have the status of being someone evil, I don't have an obligation. It's a mitzvah to judge them in a negative way. In other words, I see them in a compromising position, whatever it is. I don't have to judge them favorably. I have no obligation. If they're somewhere in the middle, they sin sometimes, this, that, I have an obligation to judge them favorably, even in a bad circumstance. Right? Even when it looks really bad. Right? But that in no way means I have to be the brunt of what someone says. Now you can say, well, no matter what I do, it's not going to help. Okay? Right? So let's say whatever you say is not going to help. It's not nice to speak that way. Why do you keep talking like that? It's only going to egg the person on more, right? If a person would show whatever they say doesn't matter, they'll probably stop. But there are people that are hard-headed. They don't care. They just talk and they talk and they talk and whatever. They don't care. So now the question is, you're right. 9 things out of 10 that they're going to say are going to be bad. They're going to be obnoxious. So you know that. You know that. So if that's true, the only question, okay, here he goes again. Here he goes again. Why am I going to listen? Why in the world am I going to, how am I going to react over here? You know what to expect. You have no choice over here. You know what to expect. Right? So, person's going to say, okay, I've had enough. God, why are you putting this person in my way? In the direct line of fire. Why am I in direct line of fire? Because God obviously has something you need to work on. Now, that could be patience. Could be. That's one thing. Could be controlling what you say. Controlling how you think. There could be a lot of different reasons. Right? We could be here till tomorrow. Trying to figure out what they are. It's not for no reason, though. Nobody is in this world to get kicked around like a can. And treated like trash. That's their obligation. Who says? Right? Who said? Now, could be. Could be for some people, their soul has to get knocked down a lot because, let's imagine a person lived in this world totally arrogant. Can't imagine such a thing, but imagine somebody was totally arrogant. Totally arrogant, and they died. Right? Eventually they die. They come back to this world. Now, they come back to this world. God says, I want to fix up their soul. How am I going to fix it up? I'm going to put the soul in the body. And I'm going to cause certain things to happen where this soul is going to get, going to have tremendous low self-esteem. It's going to get bullied. It's going to get knocked down left and right. Not necessarily in physical terms. Right? Going to get knocked all around. Feel like a piece of dirt. Never amount to anything in life, and that's it. Right? Now you're going to say, this person had it very hard. True. Right? So why do they have to go through what they went through? A lot of it had nothing to do with them. Wasn't things they enacted on themselves. Right? So why did it happen? So now imagine God gave us glasses to see. And God showed us over here. And God says, you know what this person did? This person previous life was such an egomaniac. Unbelievable egomaniac. And he thought for him the world was created and him and nobody else. And he stomped on people and this and that, whatever. So I gave him an opportunity to come back. He wanted to come back to this world, fix himself up because he knew he was in trouble. Serious trouble. In the next world. So God says, I gave him an opportunity. I gave him a golden opportunity. And he said, fine. Let me go back. Let me get fixed up. But how do you get fixed up? What does soul have to go through? Suffered. Suffered like a dog. Got pushed around, thrown around, this, that, psychologically, physically, whatever. And he suffered tremendously throughout his life or her life. You can say it's not fair. Now, a person didn't deserve it, and all these things happened, and snowballed, and whatever. True. Maybe true. But even so, let's say God gave us the glasses to see. And God showed us this person's ego was bigger than the entire universe. And he stomped on people, made fun of people. He had money, he had power, and this and that. And he begged me to send him, after he died. God says he begged me to be put in another body. Give me another chance. Give my soul another chance. God says, okay, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to give you another chance over here. And what did he do? Made his life a misery. His whole life made it a misery. And that's how he got fixed up. And then, after the person died, his soul gets up, it goes up, and guess what? God says, good job. And he says, you suffered enough, you can go straight to paradise. Now, if we understood that, and God told us that, then fine. We wouldn't have any questions. We wouldn't have any questions. What's the problem? Problem is, we don't know nothing from nothing in this world. It's very hard to see even measure for measure how measure for measure works. Very, very hard. I'm not going to say impossible, right? But very, very hard to see. Very hard to see. God doesn't give us a glimpse. Doesn't give us a glimpse over here. Not usually. But the question is, okay, many people make the claim and say, you know what? I want to know what the measure for measure is this. And I want to know what the measure for measure is that. And I want to know this, that, and the other thing. We're not privy to that information. Certainly not. So I've had a lot of questions over the years. Certain things didn't add up. Right? If you ask me how I ended up in Chile, I have no idea. What came out of it? Nothing. Seemingly nothing. Why I was there? I don't know. Other things I have somewhat of an answer for. Now, I'm not saying they're right, but I have somewhat of an answer for. Because there are certain things happened, ended up in 2 continents in 3 years. Come back to the land of Israel, the city I'm living in now. Been here 14 years, starting 14 years. And with all the things I went through, some of my kids went through, different things, whatever it was. In that odyssey, saw 2 of my kids marry people from families, that lived one building away from the next. One recently moved, but whatever. Now, the odds of that, which I've spoken about many times, I just want to make one point. The odds of that are probably 0. Very, very slim. But you see, my kids went through certain things, moved around, this, that, whatever. And this is what happened. Now, if you were to tell me step by step, I have no idea how to connect the dots. None. But each event that we go through is significant in different ways. We don't always see how it fits in the bigger picture. But I can tell you, if you connect some of these dots, come back full circle, for what reason? And 2 of my kids should get married here. All right? The people in the neighborhood I live in. That's what happened. That's the end result. Now, if you were to tell me 15 years ago, 16 years ago, 20 years ago, it's going to happen like this, that, and the other thing, going to be thrown around the world and all that, I would have said, come on. You're out of your cotton picking head. Never happened. Never happened. Right? Doesn't make sense logically. In many ways. Some things probably did to myself. Whatever it was, however it ended up, everything, that went on in between that is very hard to fathom. Why is your kid going through this? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? This and that. But when you see the bigger picture, all the pieces now fit together. We don't always get to see the bigger picture. I'm not even saying 100% this is the answer and this is why and whatever. Right? It could be my own conjecture. You can take it for, with a grain of salt. But what am I pointing out? Is that nothing is insignificant. We don't always understand it. Right? We don't always understand it. Many times we don't understand. Right? Sometimes things happen, though, in a way where things repeat. Now, if things repeat themselves, it must mean we're not getting the message. And God has to repeat things. If we do, let's say, same negative behavior, it can spiral out of control. The Mishna Pirkei Avos says, we'll get there, I don't know, whatever, 127 or whatever. Mitzvah gereris mitzvah, vera gereris avera. Do a mitzvah, you do other mitzvahs. Cause you to do other mitzvahs. You transgress, cause you to transgress as well. Right? Now, if I continue to do mitzvahs, why don't I, continue doing that and I don't transgress? Because the person has an evil inclination. But at the same time, person transgresses, could spiral out of control. 100%, but we are creatures of habit. It's very hard to break even one character trait. To fix up one character trait, very hard. I don't think there's any question. So, we got to try. We have to start somewhere. We said before, you got to work hard. 100%. That's what we're here for. But, it's, I mentioned it just in my own life. Certain things I've seen that, maybe I have some answers. Maybe. Not saying that they're right. Probably find out I'm probably wrong in many ways. But the question that comes up a lot is this happened, that happened, why? As if to say that God deserves to give them an answer. Right? We're in the month of Elul, we mentioned before. 2 weeks and a little bit away from Rosh Hashanah. Got to be introspective. If a person would take stock of their life day in and day out, what did I do? Where were my thoughts? You write them down in a journal. Was I good at controlling my thoughts? Was I good at controlling what I saw? Was I good at keeping Torah mitzvahs? How did I interact with others? A lot of things. If we're really, really honest and we break it down, the next day we get up and our soul comes back to us. We wake up and we say, Moda Ani. Isn't that a nace? Isn't that a miracle? Come on, we should all be nodding. It's a miracle. Why is it a miracle? Go back and read the journal. I'm not saying we do everything wrong, right? Not going that far, right? But go back and read the journal. And you realize my thoughts weren't where they supposed to be. What I saw wasn't, on the up and up. The list goes on of things we've done. Doesn't mean we don't repent or whatever, but think about it. Think about probably 10, 50, 1,000 things potentially we could do wrong. And we didn't do it the utmost, and we didn't, help reach our potential in this day in different ways. And we took 8 steps backwards. So if that's true, let's say, and no one's thinking in these terms, guaranteed, not too many people. Because when you wake up in the morning and you're alive, and you're saying, as a Jew would say, Modani lifanecha, that God gave us back our soul. So we're half asleep saying that. But think about it. God doesn't give back our souls, we die. And we think about the things we did against Him on a daily basis, right? Read the journal you wrote the night before. And then ask the question again. Do I really deserve? Do I really deserve to get up? Why should God let me live? Because God has mercy. He wants you to work hard. He wants you to strive. He wants you to repent, right? He wants you to do tshuva over here. Somebody here points out, yeah, we have a lot to work on. We do. There's a tremendous amount to work on. But I don't think anyone should think beyond the shadow of a doubt they're guiltless over here. And that, I don't understand the measure for measure. We may never understand the measure for measure. Right? I might be grasping at straws. We may never understand it 100%, 80%. But you know what? Even if we don't, I have to be better. I have to work hard. Yeah, but I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing the other thing. You're right. You're going in the right direction. You're going in a positive way. 100%. Nobody's denying that. But does that mean nothing bad, God forbid, should happen? Does that mean God's not, not going to take revenge over here, so to speak? God's not going to punish? Doesn't mean that. Depends where we're holding. Depends what we've done. Depends why we've done it. A lot of things. It depends on. Nobody's guiltless. So the person will claim it had nothing to do with not being guiltless. I didn't say that. But why is it so hard? This, that, and the other thing. Why is it so hard? But I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and so I can't answer that. 100%, I can't answer why. And why it takes so long and this and that. And why God's not going to give the person the answer they want. We don't know why. Right? But it doesn't necessarily mean we deserve it. And a person can suffer in a lot of different ways. But I say, but I'm working on this, I'm working on that. That's all good. If it's true. 100% that's good. But at the end of the day, maybe it's not good enough. Maybe there are other things you got to work on. I've heard people say, yeah, I've been going through this for, 2 months, 6 months, longer, whatever it is. So I had a certain honesty for 17 years in my face. Doesn't make me righteous by any stretch. Right? There were times I said, well, it should end at some point. At some point, something's got to give. Okay. Something happened. There was a certain level of closure in a certain way. But it went on for 17 years. Some of it I did to myself. No question about that. But at the same time, yeah, it's hard. And people are going to say, well, didn't you pray? Didn't you pray God to take care of you and take you out of it? Oh, yeah. And there were plenty of things I got help with. No question about it. No question about it. Doesn't mean it was easy. 100% doesn't mean it's easy. At the same time, my question was never why. Now you could ask why. Why didn't you ever ask the question? Because if you're intellectually honest, which most of us are not, if a person would be intellectually honest, do any of us have any merit right now? Right now, does any of us have any merit in God's eyes to live for what we've done in our lives? And how much we haven't done? And potential we haven't reached? And stuff we've wasted time on, day in and day out. So again, if I were playing God, you'd all be dead. Why would I say everyone would be dead? Because you're not coming close to what potential is. Not at all. Right? Not coming close. Spitting in God's face. Getting angry when you shouldn't. Saying things that you shouldn't. Doing things that you should. A million things. A million things. Someone can say, doesn't God have infinite amount of patience? To a point. Until God says, I've had enough. I have to punish. You're not getting the message. Right? 100% you're not getting the message. Right? But why should God have infinite amount of patience? We wouldn't. We're very petty. Someone does something wrong to us, shame on me. Second time, you're stupid. Why'd you let it happen again? Right? You're not going to let it happen again. Trust goes out the window. Right? So if you're talking about the King of Kings, in general, why should he have that much mercy? Why shouldn't he zap every one of us? And he's got a million reasons why he should. A million. I don't think it's that hard to understand. So now when you think about it in those terms, you're going to say, okay, but it has to be so hard? It doesn't work like that. Right? God gives everyone what they need, even if we don't think we need it. But we live in an instantaneous generation. We said that before. Everything's instantaneous. I deserve to have my answers now. God should take care of my needs now. God should answer this, do that, do the other. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. Do we get the message? Are we getting the message? But don't you think, again, if a person would take serious what they did during the day, and they would write down exactly what they did, and, their thoughts, how they interacted with others, all these things, can someone honestly answer, I deserve to live today? Again, it's going to depend why you did it, where you're holding. It's going to depend on a lot of factors how God's going to judge it. Fine. But if we understand God is the King of Kings, now I got to be careful what I think, what I say, what I do on a regular basis. Not to reach levels I can't reach, but to do what I need to do at my level, whatever level a person's on. Did we even fulfill that? Then you're going to say, wow, this is really depressing. Life is depressing. A person can say, well, I'm holding nowhere. I'll never hold anywhere. I'll just throw in the towel. No. God wants you to work no matter where you're holding. If you fail today, tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another day. We have people ask a lot. They say, okay, it comes close to, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. What should I work on? What's the most important thing to work on? I said everything. That's my answer. Try and work on what, certainly what you have to work on. Right? And we all know where our weaknesses are. So we got to make a plan and all that. But yeah, there are a lot of things. Right? The long list, someone here points out. True? It could be a very long list. Right? But before a person asks the question, that's what I want to point out here. before the person asks the question, what's the measure for measure? I'm not saying it's not a legitimate question. But before they ask the question, getting tossed around like this and like that and the other thing. The question is, let's look at the bigger picture. Right? Let's look at the bigger picture over here. You think what you did yesterday, you're getting punished for today? Probably not. Probably what happened a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. Could be longer than that. Could be years ago and God's just squeezing you now over time for whatever. Could very well be. But it's not a question what the measure for measure is. That's not the question. It'd be nice to know, but that's not the question. Question is, no matter what happens, we have to be introspective, right? That was the whole point. We have to be introspective over here, right? We have to discern the proper way of how to do things and in making decisions. I'm going to speak about this more tomorrow in the book of Leviticus, chapter 16. That'll be 9 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. We have to be introspective of what we do. But without destroying ourselves, we have to be intellectually honest. We have to analyze, what did I do? Did I really do it so well? And you can't blow it off either. You can't say, well, my Rebbe would say, if you live in the past, you have no future. You're right. You don't just totally blow it off. But you got to think, how can I work on this? How can I work on that? That's what makes successful marriages. How can I please my spouse? How can I help more? It's about giving. It's about doing. I'm not getting lost in my thoughts and say, I can't do it and it's too hard and look at this and look at that and this one said this and that one said that. You're right. It's all a cholent, so to speak. Someone there points out you put effort in one place and mess up somewhere else, right? Right? You know what you say? The right one doesn't get you, the left one will. There's a lot of things we have to work on. True. A lot of things. Right? But in the bigger scheme of things, before a person opens up their mouth and they say, well, you know what? I want to understand the measure for measure. That is not the question. That is not the question. The question is, I'm going through something now. I have to be better in so many things. The measure for measure, unless the person can pinpoint, what they did and what the ramifications are, that's one thing. We can't. It's impossible. In general. I'm not saying maybe certain things maybe a little bit more obvious than others, but that's not the point. The point is, I messed up. I deserve to be punished here. So someone there pointed out before, well, maybe I'm just waiting for the punishment. It's going to happen at some point, maybe. Maybe. Unless we totally repent and God forgives us, doesn't necessarily mean we have to go through it, whatever it may be. But at the same time, we have to be better. We have to realize we have to be better. So a person should think, yeah, this happens. And my mentality should be, I just got to be better in so many things. And I have to work hard. And I have to work harder at what I do. That's what I have to do. I have to be better the way I think. I have to be better at what I see. I have to be better at the way I react. I have to be better in interpersonal relationships. There's so many things. Right? So many different things. A person can say, come on, being tested for so long. Okay? That's what we go through. That's what life is. Life is one big test. Some things take longer, some things take shorter. We go up and down like a yo-yo. That's what happens. We go up and down. And some people say it's mostly down. Well, again, we have a lot to be thankful for, but I do want to point out, and I do want to make clear, if God did not have mercy, we'd all be dead. We'd all be dead. We wouldn't have what to answer. We wouldn't have what to answer because we've done things more egregious, less egregious, and we don't think. God wants us to think. God wants us to react properly. Even if things are haywire and things are crazy. He wants you to behave like the Torah wants you to behave. Because see, Rabbi, it takes a whole lifetime of work. It's very hard. I didn't say it was easy. We're not making any claim it's easy. But a person has to realize As the Chosel Vova says in Duties of the Heart, we have to realize we don't do a quarter of what we're supposed to do. We don't do half of what we're supposed to do. So how can we even ask the question? See, in a certain way, that question is a chutzpah question. Why? Because there are probably 150 things we might have done that we deserve to be punished. And we can be punished for a long time. Right? Who says I don't deserve punishment over here? But a person can say, well, I'm only going to be punished, so why bother doing anything? True. I might as well just have fun or whatever, but that's the evil inclination talking. We're here in this world to work. To toil. We might make mistakes. But we have to see the bigger picture. If you don't see the bigger picture, then you miss the whole thing. Because a lot that, seemingly, we spoke about this before, seemingly there are events in our lives that don't make any sense. Why this happened, why that happened, etc. But a person has to realize as well that what do we see? We can see that a person can go through something, can be traumatic, could be very difficult, could be painful. But see, a person may think, well, now I got all these doors shut. Or this door got shut, slammed in a negative way. But you know what? There are other doors. We certainly believe in. If one door is slammed, shut, other doors open. Now, we may not see it directly. It may take time to see that. And then in the future, we may see, you know what? I'm glad this didn't work out. And you see why maybe it didn't work out, whatever. And then you see, there's a divine plan here. Totally divine plan. We think this is good for me. God said, no, it's not good for you. It's not good for you, and it goes sour. Goes sideways, as they would say. Go sideways. So you're going to say, wow, I can't believe this happened. Caused me a lot of heartache, caused me a lot of pain, but guess what? It's a blessing in disguise. How do you know? Where's the good that comes out of it? You'll see. Person will see down the line. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the next day. Right? You may not see it directly. It'll take time to see it. I can tell you personal experience. I live in this world. Just like everybody else. I've seen certain things that, were painful. Very painful. But in hindsight, right? Monday morning quarterback, right? NFL starting, right? Monday morning quarterback, so to speak. I can say, certain things, I had to be out of my mind thinking this would work. I had to be crazy thinking it would work. Right? In different ways. And then years later, could be many years later, you see how it unfolds, how a person's life unfolds, and what do you say? Of course it never would have worked. And then you're much happier because you understand. You understand it wasn't meant. It wasn't meant to be. Whatever it is. And then you say, wow, but I went through so much pain and it was so hard. Okay. Part of the process. Nobody's saying no, it's part of the process. But in the end, there are blessings in disguise. Blessings in disguise. But we don't see that necessarily directly. When a person suffers and they go through a difficult time, it's very hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Very hard. Right? And again, a person goes up and down. There are trials, across the board. Things might be easier in this way for a certain amount of time, then it gets more difficult later. Or, other things. Somebody says, you put effort in one place, something works, and then something else goes sour. Right? Something else goes sideways. You don't have a plan for that. Totally don't plan for that, but okay. We're going to be prepared for whatever comes our way. Right? But nothing happens for no reason. We may not understand it. It may be painful. It may be very hard. 100%. While you're going through it, what's the mantra a person has to say? God, okay, I understand. This is not for me. I messed up. Whatever it was. I don't understand the divine plan, but I know there's a plan. I know you're with me. I know you're in charge. I know you run the world. I know, as I read last week, someone said it comes to a moon and bitachon, a person going through a hard time. What should a person say? Remember all the good things you did for me in the past. Remember the chesed, the acts of loving kindness that I didn't deserve you did in the past. Remember that I have mercy. Now, that means going to have mercy straight away? No. Well, we want to invoke that. Whatever the difficulty the person's going through. And you still may continue to go through it, but you have to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge it. So, life is hard, no question. Question is, how do I deal with it? What's the bigger picture? And we have to think about the bigger picture. If you don't think about the bigger picture, you're lost in the everyday. You get lost in the everyday. This happened, that happened. Okay, we have to deal with it. We have to deal with things that are in front of our face. No question. At the same time, if a person, whatever difficulty they're in, they have to figure out, how am I going to get out of this difficulty? And how can I put myself in a situation where I don't get in this problem again? Because it can happen again and again. We get bad habits and different things. It can happen. Because we are creatures of habit. So we have to change the way we think. We have to change the way we do things. Right? It's not easy, especially if someone's very rigid. Very, very hard to change anything. That's our obligation. 100% that's our obligation. But in the bigger scheme of things, I will go on record here because we're live here. We're going to go on the Roku network as well. Right? And that is we don't know. Right? We don't know what's going to happen today, what's going to happen tomorrow. What I do know is I have an obligation in this world. I have an obligation to serve God to the best of my ability. I have an obligation to be introspective on a daily basis. So you're going to tell me there are a million things we do wrong. Okay? So tomorrow, make it 999,999. Make it one less thing. Make it two less things. Make it things that we can do. That at least God wants to see we're going, we're trending. What's the word? We're trending in the right direction. That's what he wants to see. 100% that's what he wants to see. Now, are we going to have setbacks? Yes. 100%. Are we going to do things right all the time? No. We got a lot to work on. Right? So when a person says, well, I don't understand why this happened to me, this and that, think. If you are God, think about your actions. Today, the day before, a week before. Think. And you're going to say, come on, I'm not that bad. I'm working on this, I'm working on that. That's great. But there are multiple levels to reach here. Multiple levels. I'll give an example. I'll give a present day example. Imagine someone's working on something, take a hammer. Right? Let's say better. Person is going to work on not cursing. This is an example I always give. Person's going to work on not cursing. 1 hour a day. Whatever it is, whatever that hour a day is. No matter what happens, not going to curse. So, of course, what happens during that hour, you have plenty of things you want to curse at. Right? It doesn't go always very smoothly. Whatever it is. Person decides to work, they're going to build their sukkah. Right? So take a hammer, start hammering, and boom, hammer right hand hits left thumb. Full force. The person screaming out in pain, which, they're going to be in pain over here. And they've been working on themselves for a while not to curse. So they're working very hard, they don't curse. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The right hand with the hammer smashed the left thumb. Totally smashed the left thumb. But they don't curse. And they're proud of themselves. They say, wow, look what happened over here. Could have cursed. I didn't curse. They're going to have, go have some ice cream. Right? Unbelievable thing. Right? Now think about it. Well, now, someone will ask you the question. Did you think about cursing in your mind? Did you think curse words in your mind? They're like, Rabbi, come on, there's a limit. Let me be happy with what I reach. True. I'm not going to say no, it's a huge thing. The person under those circumstances didn't curse. Huge. Huge thing. But realize there are higher levels to reach also. Got to control what I think. I can't even think 4-letter words. But you're going to tell me words in my heart don't mean anything. I didn't say it. You're right. 100% you didn't say it. You're right. And you won't get punished for your thoughts, only for certain things. Okay? But guess what? I thought these words. So you're going to say, okay, there are a lot of different levels here that a person can reach. Some are easier to reach, some are harder to reach. But we see a person who's been working on themselves and not going to curse. Right? A person who's going to do that and they don't curse, tremendous. Tremendous thing. They should be tremendously proud, no question about it. But let's realize they thought about cursing. If they thought about cursing, there are levels to work on. Meaning, no matter where a person's holding in the world, right? No matter where you're holding in the world, there's no possible way that a person can be thankful. And no, sorry, a person can stand by their laurels. They can sit by their laurels. They can say, well, I did this, I worked on it, I'm going to get so much reward. Could be. But you can't rest on your laurels. You can't rest on what you just did. You can be proud. You can be happy. You say, I beat the evil inclination at this point. Right? I knocked him down. He's going to have to work harder to get to me. Okay. But guess what? Over here? And that is there are other levels to reach. Person can never say I'm happy where I am. Because that's not true. You're either going up or going down. There's nothing in between. So if that is true, and I've heard somebody say this, a few times. I'm good. I'm happy where I am. That's akin to spiritual death. That's exactly what God does not want. Right? In other words, they're going to rest on their laurels. So you're going to say, well, that's the only place I can reach. That's what I can reach over here. I can't reach anything else. I'm just going to stay where I am. That's certainly not good. 100% is not good. All right? So a person has to realize there are plenty of other levels to reach. Now you're going to say, this is totally depressing. This is totally depressing. But the person could say, come on, I've worked so hard. You're going to expect me to work harder? Try and reach other levels? Of course. Of course you have to work at higher levels. Once you pass a certain level, the tests get harder. That's the way it works. God forbid, it's kind of like playing a video game. You play a video game, you get past the first level, whatever it is. Second level is a little more difficult. Third level, a little more difficult. Get to level 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, it's almost impossible. Makes it very, very hard. Right? No difference in this world. The evil inclination comes, is not successful. You don't think he's coming back? You think he's just going to drop dead over here, God forbid? Right? You're not going to drop dead. He's going to come at you a different angle. Going to work harder on different things. You're not going to give up. He doesn't give up. He goes 24/7. He doesn't rest. His goal doesn't need me to agree. Pat him on the back. He does a great job making people sin. That's what he does. That's what his obligation is. Takes people's lives when God tells him to. Okay? That's what he does. But he doesn't rest. He doesn't stop. He's a machine, so to speak. Right? He just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. Never stops. 100% never stops. So if that's the case, I beat him today. Don't think he's coming back, not coming back tomorrow. Don't think he's not coming back the next day. You got to be aware. 100% you have to be aware. So there are multiple things. We have to learn how to multitask. There are multiple things, maybe all at the same time. Many things at the same time we have to work on. Many things. That's what we have to do. Doesn't mean, it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean that. 100% doesn't mean that. But at the same time, I got to do what I need to do. Right? That's what I need to do. So I have to be careful. I have to be careful no matter what I do. What I think. What I see. Who I hang out with. All these things. What I got to do. What else am I supposed to do over here? It's part of life. Challenges get harder in different ways. They don't stay the same. They definitely don't stay the same. And a person, we all go through challenges. And the topic just comes up, a lot. So that's why I'm harping on this. We all go through challenges, but I guarantee if you look 5 years ago, right? If you look 5 years ago, whatever, you see what the challenges were. You see what we've gone through. You see what we continue to go through. The challenges are not the same. In other words, if a person is going through similar things, year in and year out, and they're beating their chest on Yom Kippur for the same things that they did last year, right? For the same things that they did last year. So that's not good. If a person grows when they see that they're not making the same mistakes. They're making other mistakes, right? They're making other mistakes over here. And other mistakes means that they made it be at a different level, totally different level. So that's a good thing, because that means that we're not the same. That we're not going through the same thing, right? That's what it means. So a person has to realize that it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We got plenty what to work on, right? Plenty what to work on a daily basis, which means that the trials and tribulations may not be the same, and they may be even, maybe some of them stay the same. They never totally go away, which means that sometimes they're easier, sometimes they're harder. Depends what a person goes through. But at the same time, what does the person have to do? A person's going to have new challenges. If they have new challenges, that means, certain things they overcame. That's good. They don't stop. That doesn't mean they stop, right? And that's something, that's something we have to realize. And if we're doing the same things over and over and over again, then doesn't mean we're not necessarily getting other challenges. We definitely could be getting other challenges at the same time. We're not overcoming the challenges that we're going through now, right? We just sort of adding on to that. But if a person go, year in and year out, they're doing the same things. They're doing the same things left and right, then yeah, that's a problem. Then they're not going to change. They just realize they're going through, they're going through the same things they went through before, right? Doesn't mean they're not going to go through other things, right? Definitely not. But at the same time, is what we said. I guess we're not going to get that far in this Mishnah because, we said over here that a person has to be introspective. You have to think carefully. You have to think deeply. You have to find. Now, the problem is, I didn't even mention this, but we'll mention it now. The problem is a person being introspective and thinking about these things, you got to find the time. You got to find the time to be able to do it. And the time doesn't mean I can do it in the bathroom, because I can't think Torah in the bathroom, right? That is forbidden. So what I have to do is find time, sometime, doesn't have to be a lot of time, right? But you have to find time to be introspective, to think about where you want to go, what you want to work on, how you want to do it. That's what we got to do, right? We got to find the time. We got to find the time, right? And then we have to go out and do it, which again, it's a lot easier said. It's a lot easier said than done, right? Knowing the right thing to do, doing it, totally different things. So if we get new challenges, maybe even harder challenges, so it's a golden opportunity to tell God, thank you very much for giving me this challenge. Because obviously you think I can work on this, whatever it is. There might be a harder challenge. But see, if the challenges are always the same, that means I'm not growing. And they probably won't be. We're going to have all kinds of challenges, right? They're not normally the same. They shouldn't be the same. But we can see sometimes we feel like we're being choked on all sides and in different ways, and we see that there are a lot of different challenges all at once, right? That can also be. 100%, the question is how we're going to deal with it, right? But the important point here is, as well, is I need the time. Kind of like, Scotty on Star Trek. Captain, I need more time. Come on, Scotty. We need to get, warp 3. Warp 3 in like 30 seconds. And Scotty's like, Captain, I only have one engine, right? Captain Kirk's like, Scotty, just do it. I don't care. Do it. Get us out of here, right? We have to make the time. We have to find time. Doesn't have to be a ton of time, but you have to find time to be introspective without making yourself so depressed. Can't destroy ourselves in the process. And that's very easy to do, because say, oh, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, I did the other thing, right, etc. Right? People text on their phones all the time. Think about texting what I need to work on, right? Put it somewhere, wherever it is on your phone, or write it down or whatever. Something happens, write it down. And think, okay, I need to work on this better. I need to work on that better. We don't always have time. We're too busy. We're always too busy. No one's too busy to watch videos. No one's too busy to do other things, but we're too busy. We're too busy. We have to be introspective, right? Isn't that what the Mishna said? The Mishna said, go out and discern which is the proper way to which a man should cling. Think before you make decisions. But think about what we need to do. Jot it down. That's what we need to do. We need a certain, again, we're not talking about hours upon hours that we need to think. We're not talking about that. A small amount of time. Give yourself 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Think, about certain things. Certain things. The next day, think about other things. Okay, you want to work on this? Very good. Now think about other things. That a person might want to work on, or think about what they went through during the day. Were they successful? They weren't successful. You have to take stock. That's what we have to do. Certainly before we go to sleep, we should take stock what happened during the day, and all this. That we should do. 100%. But again, if you don't do that, then you miss the whole point. This is what the month of Elul is for Jews and for non-Jews. Be introspective. Think about, we got the biggest court case in the world that's coming up. And we don't know what's going to be. We have no idea what's going to be. We say one of the major prayers on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, who by fire, who by water, becomes rich, who becomes poor, like all these things. We know people have died, young, old, right? Doesn't matter. We know people have died. We know people are no longer here. Whether they died by disease, they died by, something instantaneous, whatever, right? We know that. They're going to say, of course I know that. Do we think about it? Are we introspective? We're not, in general. In general, we're not. We just live through life and we're trying to survive. That's what we do. That's what we're doing. So that is a minimalist way, of looking at the world. Minimalist way. Not the best way. Right? But a person's going to say, if I think too much into things, it's going to be depressing. Okay? Right? But you got to start somewhere. You can't, my Rebbe would say, if you live in the past, you have no future. You can't beat yourself down. Right? You have to have some level of self-esteem. Anyone who's listening is holding somewhere in the world because they want to become better. They want to reach potential. They don't want to rest on their laurels. Right? They want to take an accounting for what they've done. Have real meaning in life. Good? Right? That's a step in the right direction. It's a lot of steps in the right direction. Now, does that mean they're going to get to where they want? No. Does that mean they're going to be 100% successful? No. You got to start somewhere. Most people, most important question they'll ever ask, ketchup or mustard or relish on my hot dog, holding nowhere in the world. Nowhere in the world. Right? So we should be thankful we're holding somewhere. Doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean we don't have what to work on. But if if you're living in a way where you're going to say, I'm inconsistent, I do this wrong, I do that wrong, why should I bother? I'm going to get punished anyway. And the answer is, you let God do what he needs to do. Keep God out of the picture for the moment. He's going to do what he needs to do. You need to do what you need to do. Forget what happened today. Forget what happened today. You move on tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. And now what if I make the same mistake tomorrow or the next day? Okay, you got to work out a plan. You got to work hard over here, no question. Right? But I can't be so depressed that it stops me from doing anything. Because some people are obviously going to say, guess what? They're going to say, if I do this and I made this mistake and that mistake, God's going to zap me anyway, so why bother? And that's not true. You may get punished somewhere down the line, okay? And it's going to be judgment, true. But at the same time, I still need to do what I need to do, right? And if I just throw in the towel, it's going to be 10 times worse. So you're stuck. Can't even throw in the towel, right? Because God's gonna punish you for that also. But I went through this, that, and the other thing. Okay, so what? Got to pull up our bootstraps, so to speak, and we got to work hard. Someone says mayo on my hot dog. No mayo on the hot dog. That's not number 4. That might, in a scale of 1 to 10, that's about number 250 things I would have put on my hot dog. Certainly not mayo, right? I don't know if the English put mayo on hot dogs or not, but no. Any case, we digress here. The point, chili maybe, sauerkraut maybe. I don't know. Certainly not mayo. But anyway, if you like mayo, then that's your issue. But just on that point, we should be thankful we're living in a world that our actions matter and that we have to take stock of what we do. So we should be thankful for that 100%. But we have to realize we got a lot of work to do, right? We as somewhere pointed out, we got a lot of work to do. It's going to be a long list. You get hit on one side, you're successful one way, and you fail somewhere else. There are a lot of things we need to work on. That's what El is about. Right? That's what Rosh Hashanah is about. Yom Kippur all about atonement, but we have to take this month. We have to take Rosh Hashanah. We have to take 10 days of repentance. We have to take Yom Kippur. We have to go through all that and take it through the year. We have to be introspective at all times, but now it's much easier. Much easier because God is closer to us now than it's ever been during the year. So that's a huge thing. Huge thing. Someone says, hummus? I don't know. You're going to put hummus on a hot dog? I don't know. I wouldn't put hummus there either. It's either ketchup or mustard. I mean, maybe people like relish. Maybe some people like sauerkraut. Maybe chili sauce. Maybe barbecue sauce. But I don't know. Hummus on a hot dog? I don't know. Maybe in Israel, Israelis do. Any case, we got to, that's the whole point. That's the whole point over here. There's a lot more to talk about on other things, but I think that's a good, a good place to stop. And that is that we got to be introspective. All right, 100%. We have to be introspective, and we have to think. We have to think what we do, on a regular basis, and go in the way that God wants. And even if we have setbacks, even if we have failures, even if we're praying for things for God to take away, and we see it's going on for days, for weeks, for months,
years.
Just keep praying. Right, years, right, could go on for years. So God has His ways. We don't necessarily understand them. Right, in the Haftorah we read on the fast day, God's ways are not our ways, His thoughts are not our thoughts. We have to do whatever happens, whatever's thrown our way, right? But we have to be introspective, and we have to understand, it's a lot of it has to do with what we do. A lot of it has to do with what we think, what we do, how we act, right? So you're going to say, well, I have a lot to work on. We all have a lot to work on. It's a lifetime of work. Right,
so
but
trust that Hashem's guiding you somewhere.
Right, it's kind of, as we always say, it's kind of hard to see that when you're being tossed around like a rag doll, right? And life is very hard, and it could be very hard, because the person's being thrown in 20 different directions at the same time, right? And they're trying to survive. It's hard. Now, someone could say, we're going to end with this. Someone would say, come on, you speak about this all the time, right? It's a common theme. You're right. Why is it a common thing? Because it comes up a lot. Because it happens a lot. People ask the question a lot. And they're good questions. Not saying not. We have to understand the perspective, and we have to see the bigger picture. And a lot of times, we're going through things, and life is so hard, and we're just suffering so much in different ways. We don't see the bigger picture, right? We don't see the bigger picture, right? I'll tell one last story. I went to a wedding Thursday night. And it was one of my daughter's sister-in-law, the one who made her match, got married, and whatever. It was very lively wedding, and the person she dated, right? Interesting. He went out with 26 women before he met. Before he met this woman, like I said, come on, 26 is a lot, certainly in our circles. Okay, but obviously you're not going to marry someone that you don't want to marry, right? No obligation over here. So, it's also, what's my point? My point is that the person dated probably, for a number of years, right? For a couple of years, etc. And he didn't find the right one. He just, never met the right one. So, doesn't God have a plan? God has a plan. If you were to ask him, well, did it take 26? That was the plan. That was the plan over here, right? He met the right one, and she'll live happily ever after, and and all that. But we're not privy to what the plan is. We have to deal with whatever life throws at us. That's what we have to deal with, right? And life can be very hard, can be very harsh, right? But the thing is that we're getting a perspective, or we've gotten a perspective on what God expects, right? That perspective we've gotten. So now we understand to a certain extent, okay, what does he want from me? What am I supposed to do? And we have to see the bigger picture, right? But don't ask the question, what's the measure for measure? The measure for measure at this point doesn't matter. The point is, God's throwing things your way, or you're doing things, whatever. You have a lot to work on. You have 100%, you have a lot to work on.
Yeah, what's the purpose?
We all do, right? 100% we all do, right? So, but we have to understand the bigger picture. And understanding the bigger picture is being thankful every day what we have. And if God wanted to, we can make our lives a heck of a lot worse. We're not asking for it. You're going to say, how much worse could he be? Don't ask. No one should ever ask or open their mouth. Should be happy with what we have. And there are people that are happy with what they have and what no one else has. They don't want anyone else. They don't want, what other people have. We're happy with, what we have, what we're going through, right? But at the same time, we have to do what God wants, and we have to see the bigger picture. That's what we have to do. And a lot of times it's hard, but think about it. If a person sees the bigger picture, let's say 2 years later, say, wow, I went through this, and I was thinking this.
Invaluable. Yeah.
What was I thinking? It was so off kilter, and it never would have worked, and all this, and we say, oh, thank God it didn't work. But when you're going through the pain, you're going through the difficulty, you can't hear that. You can't hear it's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, right? I had a certain light at the end of the tunnel, right? That was, how long did it take? 9 years, 10 years, right? It took almost 10 years, saw a certain light at the end of the tunnel, right? But, hopefully it just takes shorter than that. But it's hard. Because you get beaten down in life, it's hard. It's hard to see. So next week we're going to hit chapter 2, Mishna 13. It's going to be part 3, right? We're going to continue with this idea of a good eye. We're going to get there, discuss it, right? Hopefully, but next week, same time, same amount of time, and we'll take it from there.
Excellent. So there you have it, folks. That's Pirkei Avos for this week. Ethics of the Fathers, live from Israel with Rabbi Chaim Coffman. We will be back next week at the same time, and we hope you'll enjoy it or join us again. Feel free to like the video and share it on social media. It all helps. And we're gonna sign out. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.